I am, I said. That's a little Neil Diamond impression. To no one there. And no one heard at all, not even the chair. Oh, you can hear me now?
Optimal minimal.
At this altitude, I can run flat out for a half mile before my hands start shaking.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Now would seem an appropriate time.
What if I did the opposite?
I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
This episode is brought to you by Helium 10. Helium 10 is an all-in-one software suite designed to help entrepreneurs launch, manage, and scale profitable e-commerce businesses on Amazon as well as on Walmart.com. So whether you're an entrepreneur who wants to start a business on your own terms or you want to scale your existing e-commerce operations, Helium 10 can help. They process more than 2 billion data points daily. That's a lot of data. Have a robust 450 plus million ASIN database and provide at-a-glance analytics like seasonal trends for products, profit estimates, and more. ASIN, just so you know, that's kind of Amazon SKU code of sorts, somewhat like an ISBN. So they can really provide, that's Helium 10, intelligence across many, many different products and product categories, so you can make the best decisions possible. They also have educational resources, award-winning training courses, free webinars, podcasts, and community support. I did a bunch of vetting on these guys with help from all of you, actually, looking for recommendations, how much you would recommend them. And I've been very impressed with the feedback I've seen on social media from their community of 1 million plus users. So they cleared the hurdle, and here they are. If you are an aspiring entrepreneur, Helium 10 will teach you how to build a thriving e-commerce business from A to Z. You'll be able to tap into Amazon's existing customer base, product demand, and shipping infrastructure to launch your business. And just as a reminder, Amazon will handle all shipping and returns for you. And if you want to take your business to the next level, Helium 10's community of experts, cutting-edge strategies, and advanced trainings led by multi-million-dollar sellers, as well as their tools, will help you scale, save time, and improve your customers' experiences, plus manage your financial health, ad spend, and much more. Join more than 1 million Helium 10 users worldwide by signing up for a free account at helium10.com/Tim. That is helium10.com/Tim. Sign up for free at helium10.com/Tim. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I get asked all the time what I would take if I could only take one supplement. I've been asked this for years. The answer is invariably AG1 by Athletic Greens. I view it as all-in-one nutritional insurance, so you can cover your bases. If you're traveling, if you're just busy, if you're not sure if your meals are where they should be, it covers your bases. I've recommended it since the 4-Hour Body, which was, eons ago, 2010, and I did not get paid to do so. With approximately 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, you'll be hard-pressed to find a more nutrient-dense formula on the market. It has a multivitamin, multi-mineral greens complex, probiotics and prebiotics for gut health, an immunity formula, digestive enzymes, and adaptogens. You get the idea. It is very, very comprehensive. And I do my best, of course, to focus on nutrient-dense, proper meals, but sometimes you're busy, sometimes you're traveling, sometimes you just want to make sure that you're getting what you need. AG1 makes it easy to get a lot of nutrition when whole foods aren't readily available. It's also NSF certified for sport, making it safe for competitive athletes, as what's on the label is in the powder. It's the ultimate all-in-one nutritional supplement bundle in one easy scoop. Right now, Athletic Greens is giving my audience a special offer on top of their all-in-one formula, which is a free vitamin D supplement and 5 free travel packs with your first subscription purchase. Many of us are deficient in vitamin D. I've found that true for myself, which is usually produced in our bodies from sun exposure. So, adding a vitamin D supplement to your daily routine is a great option for additional immune support. Support your immunity, gut health, and energy by visiting athleticgreens.com/Tim. You'll receive up to a year's supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your subscription. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Tim. Hello, boys and girls, ladies and germs. This is Tim Ferriss. Welcome to another episode of The Tim Ferriss Show. This is your host, Tim Ferriss. My guest today is Sarah Silverman. You can find her on Twitter at Sarah, Sarahk Silverman. Sarah is a two-time Emmy Award-winning comedian, actress, writer, and producer. She currently hosts the Sarah Silverman podcast and stars in the HBO Max animated series Santa Inc. opposite Seth Rogen. She will next be seen opposite Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson in the feature film Marry Me. Other upcoming projects include TBS's Stupid Pet Tricks, an expansion of the famous David Letterman late night segment, and the indie psychological thriller Viral, starring alongside Blair Underwood. Her memoir, called The Bedwetter, Stories of Courage, Redemption, and Pee, which went on to become a New York Times bestseller, is currently being adapted into a musical with the Atlantic Theater Company to premiere in April 2022. Silverman served as creator, executive producer, and host of the Emmy-nominated series I Love You, America, which streamed weekly on Hulu and saw her connecting with people through honesty and humor. On stage, she continues to be recognized as a force in stand-up comedy. Her latest stand-up special, A Speck of Dust, debuted on Netflix in May 2017 and culminated in 2 Emmy Award nominations and a Grammy Award nomination. Her additional film and television work includes Battle of the Sexes, I Smile Back, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Masters of Sex, and Bob's Burgers. You can find her on social, as mentioned earlier, on Twitter at Sarah K. Silverman and on Instagram at Sarah Kate Silverman. Sarah, welcome to the show. It's nice to finally see you.
Likewise.
And I thought we would start with an unfinished story from my perspective, which came about when I had COVID and I was isolating and I was watching multiple episodes of comedians in cars getting coffee. And I watched your episode where you had coffee with Jerry and you were beginning to tell this heartfelt story. You said, I went through a terrible depression. I remember my stepfather says, what does it feel like? And then Jerry jumps in to say, excuse me, to the waitstaff, can I get some half and half?
Oh, wow.
And you're like, really? Well, was it that much of an emergency? And then the edit cut to a different segment of the conversation. So I was wondering if it's possible for you to finish the cliffhanger, because I was actually interested to hear the rest of that. I went through a terrible depression. I remember my stepfather saying, what does it feel like? And then you got cut off by the half and half.
Wow. Yes, I can tell you exactly. And it's one of the few very clear memories I have of that time. Depression came over me when I was 13. I always say it's as fast as getting the flu. You ever get the flu and from one moment to the next, you feel fine. And then you go, oh my God, I have the flu. It was like that fast. It's just like a cloud covering the sun. And all of a sudden it's dark, It lasted for a few years and it was the 80s and I was put on Xanax. That's a crazy story. And ultimately was just given more and more and more until I was 13 and taking 16 Xanax a day, 4 Xanax 4 times a day.
Good Lord. Wow.
It just doesn't even seem possible. It can't be legal to be giving a child that much drugs. My mom and my dad were kind of trying to come up with solutions and fix things. And my stepdad was the only one who just asked me what it felt like. And it was the first time I had to think about what it felt like. And I really came up with the perfect description, which is, it felt just like I was homesick, but I was home. So there was no way to satiate it. There was nothing to hope for. There was no home to go to. I was home.
Yeah. And that was where, if we place you in time, where were you at the time?
206 County Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110.
Can you think of or identify anything that led to that wave crashing over you at that time? Is there anything that you can point to that acted as a trigger?
I remember the moment it happened, what was happening. I was a chronic bedwetter, and we had the 8th grade camping trip, which was a 4-day camping trip up Mount Cardigan. And I was the student leader, and I cried the whole time. And I had diapers hidden in my sleeping bag, and I just felt humiliated and homesick. Nobody caught me I slipped diapers in my sleeping bag so that I wouldn't pee in my sleeping bag. I was 12, 13, but I just was painfully homesick, and I never enjoyed a moment of it. It was terrible. And I probably would have loved it anyway. It was humiliating. And we come home, and I just want to go home and go into bed. And I've got my giant backpack with all my stuff, and everyone's getting off the bus. And my mom picks me up. She was a photographer, and she just was taking pictures of me like a paparazzi, and I was begging her to stop. And it was just this very odd combination of being photographed and ignored at the same time. That's when it happened. And there's a picture of it. I have a picture of the moment depression took hold of me.
It's kind of incredible that you have that locked in the amber in a way. You have that moment captured. And part of the reason I'm asking is I do not have a clear vision of when the depressive episodes that I've experienced started. I know that it seems to be congenital. My dad has had extended depressions for as long as I can remember. I don't know when my experience of that started, right? And in retrospect, it kind of seems like it was ever present. But what I'd love to do is actually flash forward to something I read in a piece from a few years ago in The Guardian, because I'm curious about how this has kind of lent itself to your life. I read that your mom always said to be your own best friend.
Yeah.
This was at the very end of a Guardian interview, I suppose. And the paragraph reads, as we say our goodbyes, Mary the dog trots off down the corridor to pay some visits, and Silverman asks if we can hug. I mentioned that she seems happy, glowing, in fact. Why? This is going to sound obnoxious, but mom always said be your own best friend, and I really, really mastered that. And it goes on. Could you just elaborate on that? Because I think this is one of my lifelong quests, is to get to that point. I would love to hear you just speak more to that, and maybe just describe how your mom instilled it and also how you practiced it, if that was something that you explicitly practiced.
I kind of went from I was serial monogamist. I wouldn't go out on a date with a guy without at least putting 2 years in. Like maybe out of politeness or, there was one relationship I just completely lost myself. My partner fell in love with this independent woman, and I became a completely dependent, codependent. I got out of that relationship so emotionally atrophied. I forgot who I was. I remember I just kept saying, I don't know how to be. And that was really scary for me. And I think from then on, it became really important to me to be alone and enjoy that. And I loved it. I would come home and go, what do you want to do tonight? Me? Yeah. I love hanging out with myself, but I also love television. I said recently on my podcast, I had to kind of admit, I always say how much I love being alone, and I do, but I'm constantly being kept company. I've got the TV on. I'm listening to Howard Stern. I guess when I listen to music, I think it takes me to a new place that isn't just company, but it is a comf. I'm trying to use that word positively. It's mind comf. No,
rebrand. Rebrand. Yeah.
I did actually practice. I lived in this apartment building for 14 years. I just moved into my first house since growing up in New Hampshire. But I would walk in from the apartment building, and there were mirrors by the elevator, and I'd make myself look in the mirror and give myself a thumbs up. And even though it's silly, because it's silly, I guess, it always made me laugh. It just makes me laugh. So it's nice to have kind of inside jokes with yourself. I also became very comfortable talking out loud when I'm alone. When you first try it as an experiment, you really have to break through a wall. It feels so odd. And now I'm so comfortable doing it that oftentimes...
Are you talking to yourself or other people, the world in general? I
just talk out loud. I think just creatively, just as a human, I'll be saying my half of a conversation I'm imagining, or just be in conversation with myself. I think when someone has a dog, they feel comfortable doing that. But essentially, that isn't talking to yourself. You're talking to another living thing, but remove the dog and there isn't a big difference in that conversation. And
in the conversation.
Yeah. And so I got really comfortable talking out loud, so much so that I've had boyfriends that are like, what? No, nothing. I wasn't talking to you.
I'm talking to myself.
But I feel like I get a lot out of that, just talking, because we are always have this kind of inner monologue going on. Do we? I don't know. I think we do. You know, we're always thinking something.
I think so.
Meditation is trying to clear that out. So we must be always have something in our heads.
Was that something that you always had, that feeling of enjoyment or being at ease with yourself, and you just had to resurrect it after getting lost in that relationship? Or was it something that you were kind of building from the ground up afterwards?
My friends always made fun of me because I have the opposite of FOMO. One of my best friends, John, he loves telling the story. I was living in West Hollywood and all my friends lived on the East Side, and I just never saw them because I couldn't even imagine getting in my car and going to a bar to hang out. I don't know why. I like staying home. I love watching TV. It's not very intellectual, but it's really my joy. There was a birthday party for two really close friends, not even a block away, and I didn't make it. And he was just like, "You're unbelievable." But when I do go out, I am social, and I love talking to people and meeting new people, and I am a people person. But I just really love being alone, and I've had friends, especially now, really annoyed with me that I'm not connecting with them, and I feel busy because when I have free time, I want to take a nap or watch TV or snuggle with my dog, and I love my friends, and I do drop the ball a lot. I have a lot of friends that say, "Why is it always me calling you?" And I feel terrible because I love them and I think of them and I keep track of them, on social media, whatever. This is asshole excuses. I'm really not good at staying connected.
Well, it makes me think of friend Jason Fried talking about the opposite of FOMO is JOMO, the joy of missing out.
Oh, that's great.
That's his take.
I mean, there's nothing better than someone canceling plans for me. I'm just like,
surprise gift.
Yeah.
Surprise gift. So you mentioned watching TV. Are there series that you have rewatched multiple times or watched multiple times? Or if you had to, is there anything that jumps to mind as something that you would absolutely replay? Law
and Order is my safe space. Something about this softcore murder, the kind of like commedia version of things ripped from the headlines, like not true crime, but that
homicidal but approachable.
Yeah, you don't really see blood, but it's all Broadway actors, playing cops and lawyers, and I love watching the same actors playing different roles, and just I think it comes from this, which is when you're on the road, it's a constant. Wherever you are, you can find a Law and Order, and it's like my what do they call it my totem. What is, the movie?
Totem. Yeah, it's totally. Yeah. It's like a totem of some kind.
It's a constant. It's something I can always, I used to bring the same like plaid blanket that I'd shove into my bag just so I could put it over the hotel blanket and just have something just consistent, something that feels like home. So I think Law and Order has just always been that. And now it's so funny. Like I'm loving Columbo. Which, like from the 70s and 80s.
It's a classic.
Oh, it's so good and just bizarre. But I tend to not watch comedies, even though I really should. And when I do, I'm glad I did. But I think as a comedian, it feels stressful. I don't go like, oh, this would be relaxing. Either it's, I don't like it or I like it. And I go, oh God, I wish I wrote that, but I do end up liking it. And one show that's on that I watched the whole first 3 seasons twice through and I'm waiting for the 4th season, and it's a comedy, is What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the
Oh
Shadows.
my
What is it
gosh.
about? Or what's
It's
the...
on FX. It looks like a reality show. Because it's one of those like mockumentary style. But it's about these 3 vampires living together in a house in Staten Island. And it's very like kind of show about nothing, like just about everyday life, getting along. But then they have unbelievable effects. So to see that in a format that's like reality TV, the contrast is so fascinating. And it's just brilliant.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that. I knew that name sounded familiar, and I didn't realize that it was made into a TV show because it started as the New Zealand mockumentary. I knew that I recognized the name.
Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement.
That's right. Yeah, that was outstanding. I had no idea that it had been made into a television series.
The movie is so great, but I have to say I love the series even more. There's just the actors are unbelievable, and it brings me a lot of joy. It doesn't give me that comedy stress for some reason. I think I'm growing out of it.
When you say comedy stress, what does that mean? Like
it's just, I think
analyzing it as it plays out in front of you because it's your craft. What do you mean by comedy stress?
I think so. And I think I've shed that a lot, but I think comedians kind of go one of 2 ways. Judd Apatow watches everything comedy that comes out, podcast, movie, TV. He just loves consuming. He loves comedy. You know, it's like when you watch like a Scorsese film or a Tarantino film where you go like, oh, these movies are made by someone who loves movies. Like I think Judd is like of that school. Then there are other comedians, and I'm not proud that I fall into this, that just, it's not relaxing to watch comedy. It's relaxing to watch a murder mystery or, like for me, I like thrillers or murdery stuff, Peaky Blinders. Stuff that's just not in my world, something that I can just get lost in.
When you wrote your memoir, The Bedwetter, Stories of Courage, Redemption, and Pee, was there any part that you found particularly or very cathartic to put down on paper? I mean, you've lived so publicly, shared so many stories. Was there anything that just felt different or freeing or cathartic when you put it in the book? Or the opposite, extremely difficult to kind of put down?
The first couple months of stuff I wrote, I had to throw away because I was writing the way I thought a writer should write. Instead of just the prose of how I talk. Me, however that is.
Using your voice.
It's like the first time I did Fresh Air with Terry Gross. I remember I was like, well, Terry, and then I was just like, who is this? I felt like I had to, I grew up with NPR. I wanted to have that voice. I felt like I needed to. So these moments where I found myself trying to do or be what I've seen before, what is normal, and then I had to just throw it out. I was writing with such furrowed brow. You could see it. Then just kind of almost being an investigative reporter in my life, interviewing my parents and seeing how those stories, their perspective on things were the same and where they were different, and kind of be a detective in my own life to be able to tell a story and realizing stuff I had never realized, having to deconstruct. I always thought, oh God, well, deconstructing comedy just ruins it. But it kind of doesn't. It's interesting. And to me, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's what I love. And writing that book made me really see the trajectory of how I became a comedian, because I had a dad who thought it was hilarious to teach his 3-year-old swears. And then I would yell those swears at the market. And I remember the feeling of yelling it out and all these grown-ups giving me this wild approval despite themselves. And that feeling, I just became addicted. I remember my arms itched with glee. And of course, I chased that. Shock became my currency at 3 and 4 and 5. And it just made so much sense looking at how I depended on that. And then after my first special, which was a stand-up movie, actually. I didn't get a special with anyone, but the guy from Interscope was like, I'll make a movie. And Jesus is Magic was my first special. It came out like a movie. After that, I had to start over. That was my first special, so it was the best of everything I had ever done, kind of assembled. Now I had nothing. I had done it as a one-woman show for a few years. And then it came out in like 2004 or 2005. So I had been working with all that material for so long. And then I just kept doing it a little bit. And then I was like,
after it came out.
Yeah, I just didn't know what to do because I had a real identity crisis. And it was a great moment of growth in a way because people didn't want to see the same material. I had to write new material. But in order to do that, I had to disappoint audiences. I had to start over. And now people came to see me. I wasn't just comedian number 7 at the improv lineup. People were coming to see me, but I had to start over. What they expected was to be shocked and surprised. And I wanted to give them that. And I didn't know how to do that because they had an expectation of it now. What I had to realize was comedy dies in the second guessing of what your audience wants to see. It was never how I had started. And now I found myself in this place where I was like, well, if they're expecting to be surprised, they need to surprise them. But then I'm giving them what they're expecting. And I just had to stop. And I got very inspired by watching Chris Rock, who does a special. I mean, he's such a pro. He goes out on the road. He, runs it, tweaks it, all those things. And then he starts at 0 and he goes to the Comedy Cellar or wherever he goes and they bring him up and the audience goes bananas. And he doesn't take on that pressure of wanting to give them what they want to see. He just, what do I got? He brings it down to 0. He bombs. And maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things, there's something there. It's work. And you have to be brave enough to eat a bowl of shit and try new stuff and see where it goes. And then some stuff that bombs you cut and some stuff that bombs you still believe in. And there's something here. I like this. It could be just missing a beat or an and or an article of a word, or I'm setting it up too much, or I'm not setting it up enough. But the point is, you have to be brave enough to bomb again and start over, even if you're famous, even if people come to see you and they're going to be disappointed, because that process is, you can't avoid it. You can't write a monologue at home and memorize it. It's just not how comedy works. The audience is half of it.
And I would have to imagine a toughness that you develop through repetitions of that, attempting to rise from the ashes like a phoenix with 0, just eating shit sandwiches over and over again. I have read, and I actually don't know the details on this kind of deliberately, because if I knew all the answers to the questions I was going to ask, that would be very boring for me. I would love to hear a bit about your Saturday Night Live experience, because I've read that helped you to become tougher. And I don't know if that's true. And I also don't know the details of what happened, but could you perhaps just describe what your experience was?
I think what I meant was it really was like a boot camp. And I remember going in thinking, oh my gosh, I have this job where I can dream things up and then they're on television. And it didn't necessarily go that way, but it was a great experience and I learned so much. And it was still very much a boys' club, to use that old. There were not many women around, and it was just a very different time. It was about to really change, but it hadn't yet. I did like it, and I got along with everyone, and I really shined on Thursday nights for Punch Up. That was like where I could really, I felt like I...
What is Punch Up?
So Thursday night, you take the writer's room, you sit around a big table, and this is how it was in 94. And you go through all of the scripts that are now chosen to be on the show, and you punch them up. You know, oh, there could be a joke here. Let's think there's something better for this, you know. Just go through it and try to make it better as a group.
Yep.
And boy, I mean, there were computers then, but we still wrote on legal pads and gave it to a room of typists. I remember my first day, I was put with these 3 guys who were hired right out of Harvard, and we were all 22. But I didn't go to college. I was a stand-up. And they kind of put us together because we were the kids and the newbies or whatever. And I spent the whole day with these guys. And at the end of it, they thought I was a typist. They just assumed I was a typist.
At the end of the day.
You know, we're hanging out, we're getting to know each other, and they go, so are you a typist? And I was like, what? I'm a writer like you. And it was just, I always think of how it was for me to be a woman in comedy as how it was for me to be a woman in basketball, because I played basketball growing up, but not at school. I played at the Y. And so I always played with almost all men. And I still, although I haven't played since March 2020, play pickup games with almost all men. Sometimes a woman will play and it's great. And I always demand that we're on the same team, because I hate how they always go, well, we'll each take a girl, you know, like I've played my whole life. I play, you know, but that feeling of going to pickup games and you can feel guys rolling their eyes, or a burden they feel that they have a girl on their team or this, and having to prove yourself so much. And I like using this analogy with other women in comedy, or other women that I play basketball with, or every shot as a woman that you shoot and miss is like missing 100 baskets, because you feel the weight of the guy going, oh. And maybe I'm putting that on them. Maybe it's true, and maybe I'm putting it on them. And either way, it shouldn't be in my head, but it is. And you carry this weight and it doesn't help you. And I always say, sometimes, especially in New York, I love just watching the pickup games and stuff. And there's a woman playing, and I go, watch how many times these guys shoot and miss, and shake it off and shoot again and shoot again and shoot again. That's how you get better. You cannot take on this, oh, I'm a woman in a guy's game, and that feeling that if I shoot and miss, I better not shoot for a while, because I better just work on setting picks. And it really taught me something. Suddenly taking the focus off of myself, which is really a self-centeredness, and watching the guys and watching them fail, shake it off, shoot again, and go, oh, yeah, I can keep shooting. If I have a shot, I should shoot. Does that make sense at all as an analogy?
It does. Yeah, no, it does make sense. It does make sense. And did it take you, so my understanding with the SNL.
Oh God, I completely forgot we were talking about SNL.
No, that's okay. No, it's okay, because I think it ties to the basketball in the sense that, is it true that you got fired by fax or let go by fax?
I got a call, a 3-way call from my agent and my manager, and it never occurred to me that I wasn't coming back. I was already writing sketches. I was like, and this year's going to be better. It's going to be great, you know, and I go, oh, they're both calling me. Hello, you know, what wonderful news must this be? And of course I was fired, and they said that they had gotten a fax. It's fine that they got a fax. That's the business. That's how it was. And they let go of a lot of people that had their first year. But I remember starting out comedy and guy comics giving me advice, and they go, the best woman comic is Paula Poundstone. And it was probably true. I love her. But they go, and the reason is because a guy could do the same material and it would work. And I bought it. I bought that. I mean, looking back, I'm just like, that's so absurd that a woman comic couldn't talk about the experience of being a woman. The conceit was, yes, the audience is half men and half women, but the women are on dates and they only laugh if the man laughs. So your audience is the men.
I never thought about that.
Well, it's absurd and stupid.
Yeah.
That was what it was.
Just a quick thanks to one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back to the show. This episode is brought to you by Dry Farm Wines. I'm a wine drinker. I love it. Love a few glasses over meals with friends. That said, I hate hangovers. It kills me, often for multiple days. Right now, all of the wine in my house is from Dry Farm Wines. Also, for my last 2 book launch parties, all the wine has been from Dry Farm Wines. Why is that? Because in my personal experience, their wine means more fun with fewer headaches. Dry Farm Wines only ships wine that meet very stringent criteria. Close to sugar-free, so less than 0.15 grams per glass. Lower alcohol, less than 12.5% alcohol. Additive-free. There are more than 70 FDA-approved winemaking additives. The fewer the better. In your wine, lower sulfites, organic, and produced by small family farms. All Dry Farm wines are laboratory tested for purity standards by a certified independent enologist, and all of their wines are backed by a 100% happiness promise. They will either replace or refund any wine you don't love. Last but not least, I find delicious wines I never would have found otherwise. So it's a lot of fun, saves me time and research, and I have fewer headaches. Other fans of Dry Farm Wines include the incredible Dr. Dom D'Agostino, who's been on this podcast, very popular guest. You remember the guy who did a 10-day fast and then did 10 repetitions of deadlifts with 500 pounds? That guy. He drinks their wine even when on a ketogenic diet, which can work. Dry Farm Wines is offering you an extra bottle in your first box for a penny because it's alcohol. It can't be free. Find all the details and collect your wine at dryfarmwines.com/Tim. Check it out, dryfarmwines.com/Tim. And one more time, I love this stuff, dryfarmwines.com/Tim. Well, see, you mentioned, not taking on this burden of, for lack of a better term, kind of hiding, say, as a woman taking a shot in a basketball game, if you happen to miss, right? In the case of SNL, because part of what's does impress me still about you is just your longevity in the craft. I mean, it's really, it's remarkable. It's really remarkable, and it's not altogether common at all. And I'm curious, after the SNL, were you able to dust yourself off and just get right back to work quickly?
No.
Did it take a while to recover from?
Yes.
All right.
I remember.
Please tell me more.
I have a Polaroid picture I took of myself, and I saw it when I was moving. I had cut my bangs maybe an inch, just insane looking bangs. and it just says no confidence on it, I wrote. And I remember thinking, like, am I in show business I didn't know where I fit in. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to just, and eventually I just put my head down and kept doing stand up, and it led me wherever it led me. I've really never made a plan in show business. I've never thought, like, I want to do this, or I know this is maybe not, it's not advice at all, but I've never set goals for myself. I just always kind of, I don't know. I love the stuff I do. I think of myself as I do odd jobs. And like when I couldn't do stand up, I said, I have to do a podcast. What am I going to do with all of this? But I do think part of the longevity is just being open to be changed. What I learned after that first special that I talked about, that really changed my life along with therapy. But to be brave enough to bomb, to change and no longer have the same fans, to disappoint people and just go on the trajectory I go on. There's a line in a song in a musical, Sunday in the Park with George. It's a song called Move On. And she says, the choice may be mistaken. The choosing is not. You've got to move on. And it does free you. I feel like you can, thinking of that, the whole play is quite brilliant. It's about art and life. But that it doesn't matter the choice. It doesn't make a difference. You're going to wind up where you're going to wind up, but make one. Because it can be so paralyzing, I think.
Totally.
Not wanting to make a mistake. And I think what I learned from that basketball analogy as well, along with a brilliant quote by Charlie Kaufman, and it's being talked about a lot just in general, is how essential failure is and what you do with it, which is not a new concept anymore.
Is this it? I'm just pulled it up. Failure is a badge of honor. It means you've risked failure. If you don't risk failure, you're never going to do anything that's different than what you've already done or what someone else has done.
Oh, wow. I never heard the whole thing. All I knew is don't fear failure. Failure should be a badge of honor. It means you risked failure. Look at all these, the concept of cancel culture, and I can argue either side of it passionately. But another thing is, if you think of yourself as a risk taker in comedy, for instance, the thing that makes it a risk is that there's something to lose, is that there's consequences.
Yeah.
You can't just say I'm risky and then be angry if there are any consequences. You got to take it and be changed by it or disagree with it, maybe, but wonder about it. It's like when you get notes from a network, and I know there must be I know this sounds very specific to show business, but of course, any job where you have a boss, when you get notes from a network and you go, this is stupid. This is not even, there's always something that they're onto, some germ of something, the spirit of that note that you need to figure out because they're onto something, but they maybe don't know how to articulate it.
The first sentence in that quote by Charlie Kaufman that I don't have any context for was do not simplify. And then it goes on to do not fear failure. And I wonder what that refers to.
We need to find the whole thing. Oh, inspirational writing advice from Charlie Kaufman. It's on YouTube. We're going to have to watch it. I heard it as a quote, or I read it as a quote, and I was like, oh my God, and completely attached myself to it. And of course, I never just Googled the whole thing. Now I'm very excited to watch.
Yeah, it's 41 minutes. We'll link to that. And there's Charlie Kaufman's got all sorts of good quotes. Say who you are, really say it in your life and in your work. Tell someone out there who is lost, someone not yet born, someone who won't be born for 500 years. Your writing will be a record of your time. It can't help but be that. But more importantly, if you're honest about who you are, you'll help that person be less lonely in their world because that person will recognize him or herself in you, and that will give them hope. All right, Charlie Kaufman, I'm sold. Charlie Kaufman, who was, as I understand it, one of modern cinema's most celebrated writers, with work including surreal fantasy, Being John Malkovich, cerebral sci-fi, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, comedy drama adaptation, and extraordinary animation, Anomalisa?
Oh,
Anomalisa,
yeah.
I don't know that one. Wow. All right. Well, we will put that video, inspirational writing advice from Charlie Kaufman, 41 minutes. I have spent way too much time on the internet with this kind of accidental audience or unexpected audience after my first book in 2007. And I've seen in the last, say, 4 or 5 years, some really disconcerting patterns emerge just watching this large, for me, large-ish following.
Massive.
And I imagine I've seen a lot of well-intentioned, in some cases well-educated, doesn't really matter, but thoughtful people get pushed to the polar ends into these extremes, or pushed themselves, or just been led by algorithms. Who knows? It makes me think of, and I could also be getting the facts wrong on this, but it was either Fahrenheit 451 or 1984, one of those lovely dystopian novels that makes me think of book burning in one of them, and probably Fahrenheit 451. And there's this kind of monolithic state and the firemen and so on, but the book burning started with the people themselves were burning the books, and the kind of righteousness porn and reputational assassination that I've seen, even among people who you would think to be of the same kind of tribe, let's just say listeners of this podcast, is really disconcerting to me. And I'm curious to know where you think this goes. Does it burn itself out in some fashion? Does it get increasingly bad with higher and higher consequences? Because you're watching a lot of these events unfold and you're noticing them. If you had to hazard a guess, where do you think this goes, right? 3 years from now, 2 or 3 years, or 4 or 5 years from now, what do you think it looks like?
I'm going to have to say a very solid, I don't know. But, I couldn't begin to guess what the future holds for us in terms of, I think the sooner people realize we're all totally connected and you're fighting with yourself, basically, the better.
Yeah.
But I do think we're at really like the pendulum has frozen in both.
Extremes.
Yeah. And they're almost a mirror image of each other in a real fucked up way, as much as neither side would want to see that.
Yeah.
What is your answer to that? I mean, listen, when you leave social media for a while, you realize it's not the whole world. It's not even most of the world or half of the world. It's a very small part of the world. But it's given us this thing where we, in real time, can see how like almost everyone, it's what seems like everyone feels. And I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go from here.
Yeah.
Listen, unless Facebook and YouTube radicalize people by algorithm, it's not like they're set out to do it, but greed has made them do it because inciting rage they found very lucrative.
Yeah. Twitter too.
And so you see a headline, and the headline is designed, even reputable places now, their headline is clickbait. It's so one small piece of a story that is the most salacious. And maybe if you click on it and read it, proves to not be true at all, or is wildly minimal but who clicks on it and reads it? Very few people. They're reacting to, so it's just these little beams of light coming out at your face to upset you and make you angry. And whoever you are, it's designed just for you.
A guest on the podcast, very bright guy, who has the most endurance of any guest I've ever had, Balaji Srinivasan. He talks about the media you consume having root access to your brain.
Whoa.
In the same way that you can have root access to a computer and therefore control the computer, right? So if coding is scripting the behavior, let's just call it behavior of computers, then media is basically the code that gets installed into humans. And so when you have algorithms on Twitter or anywhere else for that matter, YouTube, right, that are kind of self-perpetuating by reinforcing to greater and greater extremes because they're more effective for producing clicks. Of course, I'm not a Nostradamus. I don't know where that leads, but I do see more and more examples of the kind of hatred and vitriol online resulting in people getting doxxed. So having their physical addresses and personal information posted in the hopes that there will be some type of violent consequence. And I really do. And I think it's also just my nature. I come from a long line of warriors. So I think that I have to be aware of my predisposition to go to worst case scenarios. I don't know. There's some part of me that maybe perversely just gets something out of imagining
I think for a lot of people, and I think myself included, and I really see it like in my stepmom and so many of us, that worry is, even though we don't want to be in worry, we don't want to be worried, it's our comfort zone because it's familiar.
Do you experience that yourself, or do you see that more so? And yeah,
I do. I mean, all these things I know and talk about is purely aspirational for me, Well, I can hear myself talking. My mouth.
Well, in a sense, they're aspirational, but I'm still impressed by this sort of success story around the be your own best friend. I think that's very rare. I think that at least in my kind of concentric circle of friends, I think that particularly if people are driven, and I think even though you may not have a 5 or 10 year or 20-year plan, I think most people would consider you very successful at what you do. A lot of that drive seems to translate to people being very dissatisfied with themselves or hypercritical of themselves, or at least they seem to correlate. So what advice would you give somebody who's maybe prone to self-flagellating? Would you have any advice to them if they're not yet at a place where they maybe they don't even particularly like themselves, but they use work as a way to occupy their minds so that they're distracted from that?
I think in terms of the self-flagellation, I see it, and I don't mean this to pile on someone who is constantly putting themselves down in their head or out loud. But it is not modesty. It is self-obsession. Unless those thoughts turn into change that make you into the person you would be very happy to be, then it's very masturbatory. You're not seeing, there's no room to observe and watch and be delighted and amused by others. It's just all self. I have friends that are comics that cannot be alone. They are out until 4 a.m. and only go home when they can drop to sleep. And it worries me.
Why do you think they do that?
Because being alone is terrifying for them. Being still, being alone with their thoughts is terrifying. And listen, I admit to you, I love being alone, but alone with my thoughts is a whole other thing. You know, I mean, I am often, but I still entertain myself with television and radio I just think when you accept yourself the way you accept any schmuck on the street, you just have a lot more room for other stuff. I had a therapist who said, look in the mirror less. And I found it to be incredibly profound because, instead of like, just know that any one of us looking in the mirror does not see what other people see. Not that what other people see is what's important, but we cognitively distort what we see in the mirror so much. I mean, look at the whole thing with selfies. And I see it the same as people who heckle. And I know that sounds really weird connection. But hecklers to me, whether they're yelling something out lovely or mean or whatever it is, it's interrupting, like a show. And the same with people who are constantly taking selfies. I feel like the subtext is the same for both, which is, I exist, right? And, that's ultimately what it is that, life is this existential crisis of like, what is it to exist? We need it to mean something.
I completely agree with you and I say this as someone who I think is pretty self-absorbed, as evidenced by my depressive episodes in the past. Because
same.
Because it is the sort of the me, I song. When you're either suffering from depression or anxiety, you're kind of trapped in a self-referential loop, right? So I think...
Yeah, it's not conceited. It's not, it's awful, but it's to be consumed.
Yeah. And I think that what's been hard for me is realizing that, but not being able to extricate myself from that loop. This might be a good time to just ask, in what ways therapy has been most helpful to you? Because there's good, the bad, and the ugly among therapists, right? So I'm wondering, how has therapy most helped you? Why has it been helpful?
Besides that, it's another perspective on your life and how you see things and how you relate to people. Listen, there are plenty of terrible therapists out there, but it's always bizarre to me that people will drive 10 different cars to see which one they like best. And if you're lucky enough to be able to afford therapy, and it's becoming at once less and less accessible and more accessible, because there's a lot of stuff online and there's a lot of stuff. I mean, the best therapist I ever had charged $100 a session. This is recently, up until very recently. But I mean, that's not nothing, but it's for therapy. It's pretty good, but it's become more and more accessible. And I just think if you have the luxury to be able to find the right one for you, do that. I found the right one for me, and he just changed my perspective in a lot of ways. And you want some greatest hits?
Yeah.
Is it, like, I mean,
if you've got, definitely. It sounds like you have a couple locked and loaded. So let's do it.
He said, have you ever predicted anything that's happened in your life? I go, well, yeah, I guess not. He goes, we're looking through a pinhole. You don't know what's coming up next. We have a fear of the unknown. That's why we tend to, and I'm very ritualistic, and it's hard to get me to try new things, actually. And I try to break out of that. But we have a fear of the unknown. We have a fear of change. But like the truth is, you should be just on the edge of your seat. What's going to be next? I don't know. So I thought that we're looking through a pinhole. We don't know what's coming up next. I like that. He changed my perspective in a lot of ways. And listen, I see this when I think about when I went into depression so fast. And I think about it in beautiful, wonderful ways as well. But I mean, you change your perspective by 1 degree and the whole room looks different. The whole world looks different. And that's neat to me.
How often do you, when you've been in the sweet spot, whatever that means from a therapy perspective, how often are you doing sessions? Is it once a week, twice a week, once every 2 weeks? What is your cadence?
I'm very erratic with it. I'll go once a week if I'm working through something, and then sometimes I'll go like months or a month or something and be like, I need to talk this out. Or I've gone for many years regularly, and I kind of go. I'm starting actually with a new therapist, and I have my second session on a Wednesday.
So why are you starting with the new therapist if you had a great therapist?
He's so wonderful. Well, I could just say he's retiring, but I actually left a little before he retired, and I love him so much. But I'm not giving him a path to redemption or whatever, but he doesn't need to be redeemed. We had a session after I lost my friend to COVID that I was my writing partner on this musical, the music part. And I had my first session with him since spending 3 months in New York during the first 3 months of the pandemic. And I told him the whole story of losing Adam. And it was also, he texted me, oh my God, I think I have this thing, and then like, oh my, I'm still sick. I can't get a test anywhere. This is crazy. I have like a really high fever, and then not getting any more texts. And he was in the hospital. Then I get a text, I'm in the hospital with COVID, and then the text stopped. And then his girlfriend was reaching out to us, and then he was gone. Because it was so early. They put him on a ventilator, and anyway, I tell him the whole story. And I guess I don't have to not say this because it's my therapy. It's, I feel like, but, he was like, well, what did it say on his death certificate? Because they're calling everything COVID now, because they pay hospitals $30,000 to call something COVID. And like, he's like a COVID denier. Yeah. And I don't care what he is. But he didn't need to bring it there. And I was pretty positive the thing to say was, are you okay? Or, gee, I'm so sorry. And now I feel like someone online who he didn't say exactly what I needed him to say. And now I'm angry at him. I'm not angry at him. I love him and I'm so grateful for him, but I just needed to detach with love. And I have a very close friend who also knows him and said, just, talk to him about it or whatever. And for some reason, I don't feel angry about it. I just want to kind of move on. I had such wonderful years with him and I don't need him to say, so, well, listen, he's on his own thing and I'm so grateful for what he taught me, but I just kind of moved on.
You can get a lot from someone and a lot of value, and they can do something you really disagree with. And the latter does not necessarily negate the former, right? Which is hard to sometimes see out there on social media. Cause
it's odd that we seem to be living in a world where people just expect you to, if you say something that wasn't what in their mind what you should say, they're just so disappointed. And I've always maintained personally, I go, hey, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and it's okay if you don't like what I say, and it's okay if you're no longer a fan.
Yeah. I also think, I had the author and incredible, she's just an incredible historian and historical thinker, Doris Kearns Goodwin, on the podcast. And I asked her if she thought leaders like, say, an Abraham Lincoln or an FDR or a Churchill could actually be elected in today's day and age. And she said no, because the veneer of perfection the facade has to be presented in such a way that, if any of the kind of foibles and flaws of many of these leaders had been transparent or were transparent in today's day and age, there's no way they would get elected. even though in other respects are really effective. So it's definitely, I don't know why today is the day I've decided to showcase all my dystopian concerns about the next 5 to 10
bring
years.
it out in people.
But the Sarah Silverman podcast, I think you alluded to at least one of the reasons perhaps that you began the podcast, but why did you decide to start the podcast?
The pandemic happened and I couldn't do stand-up, and I just felt like, where do I put all this? And it just made sense to do a podcast. I've been resisting doing a podcast for so long. And
why had you been resisting it?
because like everyone was doing it. I wasn't an OG like you know. And I really liked the idea of being able to talk to hear from people all over. And I'm shocked by the people who call from so many other countries. It occurred to me that, I mean, this is just so American, you know. It didn't occur to me that this would go to other countries, you know. I just didn't cross my mind. So that's been really neat. But just that people from all over are really calling in, and I was hoping that would happen, and that I get to, it's voicemails. Every once in a while I go, I need to talk to this person more, and we'll call. But it's mostly voicemails, but people will call in and follow up. And I've become kind of connected to this kind of community, but it's always changing, and it's so different from my stand-up. First of all, like sometimes I listen back to the podcast, I go, there's no evidence of a comedian. Like, who do I think I am? Like, but then I try to remember joy before I go on. I go, stop taking yourself serious. It's so, once I take a little puff at night, and then if I listen to some podcast, I go, who the fuck do you think you are? It's like embarrassing to me. But then I go back and do it again, and people call in with questions, and I really feel like I can help, or at least say what I'm thinking. You know, it's morphed into this thing that I didn't expect, and I didn't really know what it would be, but I knew I just wanted to talk and hear people's thoughts and opinions, and then let that be the trajectory of the episode.
How do you choose which to speak to? Because I was looking at your Twitter feed. You have an enormous New York City plus size Twitter following, like 12 point something million. And you use SpeakPipe. But with that sized audience, you must get an absolute avalanche of different voice messages. How do you choose what to respond to?
I've got 2 producers on the show, Raj and Diana, and they go through all of them, and they bring me about 20. And, you know, I just, you know, they know I want different, you know, it becomes very, we all think alike kind of. So I'm always looking for another perspective, or, you know, anything. And they kind of know what I would look for. And we listen to them the night before, like tonight, because I record on Tuesdays and it comes out on Thursday. And I just go, oh yeah, that's good. You know, I kind of talk through like what I might say, and I just, yeah, let's do that one. And I probably pick like 18 of the 20, you know, and then that night or the next morning, I'll kind of think about it more and make like an outline, and just to have thoughts in my head. And then we record, and sometimes I respond the way I planned, and sometimes I don't at all. I go a different direction, but I always record way more than we need. And so we either throw stuff away, or if it's evergreen, you know, could be used another week. It's not about like the news of this week or something. Well, we might save it, because then when I work on the play in March, April, May, I'll probably be able to do some episodes in New York, but I like to stockpile some that are brand new, but could be a month from now. Or so, and maybe you didn't want those exact details, but that's how it goes. And
are you kidding? I love exact details. I stockpile exact details, so you're in good shape.
So it's interesting, because with my stand-up, I'm a very slow honer. I'll work on a joke for months, maybe even a year, 2 years. And I hone it so slowly, even though it may sound kind of in the moment, you know, I'm working on it inch by inch. And on the podcast, it's very immediate. It's messy. I'm loving now being able to, now that I can do stand up more and more, less and less, and then more and more, depending. They're very different. I like doing odd jobs. I like doing different stuff. And when they converge, it's kind of neat, where if I say something, I go, oh, that could maybe be a joke.
Has anything from the podcast popped in an unusual way for you, where one topic or one episode unexpectedly got particular traction? Has anything been really surprising for you overall?
Yeah, I'm always surprised. Well, at first I usually pick like 3 little clips to post on social media. And do we go with what works best, or do we go with what, it's because it's a quandary, because then you become,
Well, you run into the same problem with second guessing the audience on stage, right? So this is, I want to dig into this, because this is an important choice, right? Like, do you use what you think is going to get kind of the cheap applause, so to speak, or like the easy layup, or do you use something else? So how do you make that?
But the irony is, and I don't know if this is irony, but that I would post the clips that I thought were funny, and people are like, "Meh." And then like I post something that I go like, oh, this is like, that's opinionated, thinky, hippy dippy granola, stuff that is also me. People really responded to the more serious stuff. There's a couple comedians that have become like motivational speakers, and I find it incredibly obnoxious. And then I'm like, how am I different? Am I doing that? But I think maybe that's why, because people always go, why do you always say you're talking out of your ass or whatever? I go, because I am. This is me in process trying to make sense of life. And so my answers, there's no authority in my answers other than my own life experience and having not died. I've lived a long while. I hope to keep living a while, and I have learned a bunch of stuff. It's a fine line, and that I would be horrified if I saw that I had become that. And I think that's why I really spot when people qualify things a lot, and now I'm doing it right now. And I do it on my show sometimes where I go, oh, I don't know, I'm talking out of my ass, what do I know? But I feel like it needs that qualifier just to prevent me feeling like I think I know best.
Yeah.
But my mother was like that. And I've become my mother, she couldn't help, but I mean, there were not enough comment cards in the world for my mother. She had so many, she felt she could correct so many things in the strangers around her. Or like, I mean, it was almost like a horror movie. Like you could pick up a book. There was a book she had that was like a guide to Santa Barbara. And it had like in pen corrections all throughout it. Like, grammar, but now I've found that I've become that person that I'm like, I'm helping. Like she would always go, I'm helping, and I would go, ugh. But, I was at like 7-Eleven and a kid, 19-year-old kid or something was buying like orange soda and Doritos, and I just couldn't control myself. And I was like, really? Almonds are the same price. This is what you're feeding your body, And I'm just like, oh my God, Sarah.
I'm helping. I would love to ask you, there are a few questions. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a twofer, and you can pick which one you want to answer first.
Oy. Okay.
So the first is how you chose to become involved with I Smile Back. And the other is what you learned or any kind of lessons taken away from Gary Shandling.
Oh, I'll just do both of them in order.
Yeah.
I Smile Back. It was a book written by Amy Koppelman, and she had sent it to my agent at the time, who's a real character. If you ever want to interview an agent, I don't know why you would want to, but he's fascinating, named Michael Kivas. And he sent it to me, and he said, she wants you to play this part. And I was like, she does? And I read it, and it was really interesting. And then she and her friend Paige Dillon wrote the screenplay, and then they were I said I'd do it, and they were really collaborative, and we worked on a lot of it together, and it was very hard. I mean, I remember thinking, yeah, this is a really heavy movie, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be fun. Yeah, I'll act that it's the reality of the moment, and then they'll say cut, and we'll have, be fun. And it was. It was a good experience, but it was I didn't know that, you have to have your 10,000, 100,000 hours in. Tom Hanks seems like he can I always heard he jokes around, and he's, he's like the belle of the, he's like funny and all this. And then they say action, and he's Captain Phillips. Right. So I just thought, oh yeah, I don't have the experience to be able to access everything. Like once I access those kind of things, they're just on my lap, so it was, I remember a friend would call and say, how's it going? And I go, this is really a bummer, I wasn't able to just separate. So it was just a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I did it. And it was an incredible experience. And, that movie's really relentless though, what's the movie Gabourey Sidibe won the Oscar for? Oh. Precious. Even Precious had moments of relief, I just go, this movie's just like too much, but it was really fun to do. And Amy Koppelman just directed her next book that was made into a movie, which is really cool. Anyway, so that was that.
I want to say two things real quick. So the first is, I thought you did an outstanding job. I think a lot of folks have exposure to your comedy, of course, and you as comic and so on, but less exposure to you in sort of a dramatic capacity. And I thought you did a really outstanding job and a really nuanced job. So I wanted to say that. And I've had dinner with Amy before. She is a very smart, very observant, fascinating woman. So I wanted to also encourage people to check out her work. Garry Shandling.
What did I learn from him? He, I can't say enough about him. And really, for anyone who's listening, please watch Judd Apatow's 2-part documentary on him.
What is it? Is it the Zen Diaries of Garry Shandling?
Yeah.
Is that yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good. But Garry was so generous, and so we played basketball at his house every Sunday, and there were big celebrities that played. There were, writers' assistants, PAs that played, it didn't matter. He assembled this ragtag group, and they were all his friends equally, like I said, like there are, NCIS scripts that a writer would show to Garry, and he'd give, he put so much into helping writers, helping actors, everything he learned the hard way. He really offered up to us on a silver platter. And some things you got to learn the hard way, but so many things I learned about silence, about taking, that in stand-up, even just the moments in between the words and the currency in that, currency sounds like or the specialness, or that you're saying something in those moments just as well. And to not be afraid of them, to not feel like you need to fill that empty space. And it's interesting learning that for stand-up, but then in life, I hear my dad when we talk on the phone. Now we FaceTime and it's different. But when we would talk on the phone and there would be like a dip in conversation, he'd go, that fear of silence, or, is so real in people and I learned that from him. It's very interesting. And, he studied Buddhism. He was a Buddhist. But it wasn't because he was naturally that way. It's because he was riddled and he needed it. And that's all of us. And trying to just be honest and get to the core of, he kept a journal, which, I think your comedy notebook is half journal. And he would say, just be Garry Shandling, whatever that is, on stage, or like all these things. And Judd helped clean out his house and stuff, and took pictures of a lot of his journal pages that are, I don't think he would be upset about it are so revealing and so helpful. He wasn't perfect, but he was in search of, and just even learning that or watching that in him was so fortifying and helpful.
Here's a question that is sometimes directly leading to a dead end, but that's on me, so I'll try it. Just Be Gary Shandling made me think of this. So if you could put a message, any message, could be a quote, could be an image, could be anything really, on a billboard, metaphorically speaking, just to get it out to hundreds of millions, billions of people, what might you put on that billboard?
Two things come to mind. One is the story about Fred Phelps, who started the Westboro Baptist Church. You know, they go to...
I don't know this story.
So he started the Westboro Baptist Church. You've got to interview Megan Phelps Roper.
All right.
She
I'll write it down.
Grew up in the Westboro Baptist Church, and her story is amazing. She's amazing. Her change and the ways in which she didn't change, that she was always this beautiful person, but to grow up in something and believe it with your whole heart. And anyway, her story's incredible. Fred Phelps, her grandfather, started the Westboro Baptist Church. And of course, these are the people that show up to funerals with signs that say God hates fags. And, you know, they're those people. And people showed up at his funeral with signs that said, sorry for your loss.
Mm.
And I just thought that was the most beautiful act of protest I've ever heard. So, and for some reason, I feel like that on a billboard would be useful for everyone in some way.
I don't want to chew up too much of your time, Sarah. I'm having a great time. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about? Is there anything else that you would like to comment on? Any suggestions you'd like to make? Anything you'd like to point people's attention to that comes to mind?
I'll say what my auntie Martha told me. Grab joy where you can get it. Grab joy where you find it. I was single and I was in DC and I was supposed to go to home to LA for a friend's memorial service. Comedians kill themselves a lot. And I kind of wanted to go back to New York to see this guy I was dating. And I go, I feel guilty. She goes, go to New York. Grab joy where you can get it. Your friend is gone. You can honor him in your mind, whatever, other ways.
Yeah. Grab
Although,
joy where you can get it.
Comedian memorials are really fun.
I can't let that sit. So tell me more. What makes them fun?
Well, because I find funerals to be pretty fun usually. You know, even if you're sobbing, right? You're with a group of people that loved this person, talking about the greatest hits of who they were and how they impacted everyone. And with comedians, I mean, Gary Shandling's memorial was amazing. You're laughing and crying. Kevin Nealon, for lack of a better word, closed the show, the memorial, and he was sobbing and he was killing. I mean, and it was just all real and true. But afterwards, when everyone goes their separate ways and lives life, is when grief punches you in the face, and you're at line at Ralph's, 2 weeks later, but you're just hearing the funniest stories and the greatest things they wrote and said. And it is a celebration. I think that's
Sarah Kate Silverman, where's the Kate from?
I don't know. I think I was supposed to be named Kate Sarah Silverman, and my Nana said, no, I know someone named Kate and I don't like her or something. So they go, all right, well, we'll say Sarah Kate. And that's the amazing story of my if I was a boy, I know I was going to be John Robert after the Kennedys.
Wow. John Robert. Yeah. I think Sarah Kate works. I like it.
Yeah.
Sarah Kate Silverman, at Sarah K. Silverman on Twitter. Thank you so much for taking the time. People should absolutely check out the Sarah Silverman podcast. where each week you can find joy where you can get it, one bite-sized audio morsel at a time. And your book, your first book, memoir, is The Bedwetter, Stories of Courage, Redemption, and Pee.
Oh, yeah, it's from 2010.
It is from
but
2010.
The musical is called The Bedwetter, and it's the musical is called The Bedwetter, and it comes out, previews start in April at the Atlantic Theater in New York, and that is based on the book, but it's just the year I was 10, and I'm not in it. There's a little pint size of incredible me. I mean, the actress is incredible.
Well, congratulations. I know that's been a long time in the making. I know that your dad has been counting down the days as best I can tell.
Yes. He's like, how much longer do I need to stay alive?
And it's here. It's here in just a few months. Fingers crossed. And thank you so much for taking the time, Sarah. I really enjoyed the conversation and getting to know you, not just through doing the homework and research for the conversation, but having the conversation itself. And I hope that we get to have another conversation sometime, and appreciate it.
Me too.
And for everybody listening, we will put links to everything in the show notes, and you can find that at tim.blog/podcast. And until next time, thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Hey guys, this is Tim again. Just one more thing before you take off, and that is 5 Bullet Friday. Would you enjoy getting a short email from me every Friday that provides a little fun before the weekend? Between 1.5 and 2 million people subscribe to my free newsletter, my super short newsletter called 5 Bullet Friday. Easy to sign up, easy to cancel. It is basically a half page that I send out every Friday to share the coolest things I've found or discovered or have started exploring over that week. It's kind of like my diary of cool things. It often includes articles I'm reading, books I'm reading, albums perhaps, gadgets, gizmos, all sorts of tech tricks and so on that get sent to me by my friends, including a lot of podcast guests. And these strange esoteric things end up in my field, and then I test them, and then I share them with you. So if that sounds fun, again, it's very short, a little tiny bite of goodness before you head off for the weekend, something to think about. If you'd like to try it out, just go to tim.blog/Friday. Type that into your browser, tim.blog/Friday. Drop in your email, and you'll get the very next one. Thanks for listening. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I get asked all the time what I would take if I could only take one supplement. I've been asked this for years. The answer is invariably AG1 by Athletic Greens. I view it as all-in-one nutritional insurance, so you can cover your bases. If you're traveling, if you're just busy, if you're not sure if your meals are where they should be, it covers your bases. I've recommended it since the 4-Hour Body, which was, eons ago, 2010, and I did not get paid to do so. With approximately 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients, you'll be hard-pressed to find a more nutrient-dense formula on the market. It has a multivitamin, multi-mineral greens complex, probiotics and prebiotics for gut health, an immunity formula, digestive enzymes, and adaptogens. You get the idea. It is very, very comprehensive. And I do my best, of course, to focus on nutrient-dense, proper meals, but sometimes you're busy, sometimes you're traveling, sometimes you just want to make sure that you're getting what you need. AG1 makes it easy to get a lot of nutrition when whole foods aren't readily available. It's also NSF certified for sport, making it safe for competitive athletes, as what's on the label is in the powder. It's the ultimate all-in-one nutritional supplement bundle in one easy scoop. Right now, Athletic Greens is giving my audience a special offer on top of their all-in-one formula, which is a free vitamin D supplement and 5 free travel packs with your first subscription purchase. Many of us are deficient in vitamin D. I found that true for myself, which is usually produced in our bodies from sun exposure. So, adding a vitamin D supplement to your daily routine is a great option for additional immune support. Support your immunity, gut health, and energy by visiting athleticgreens.com/Tim. You'll receive up to a year's supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your subscription. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Tim. This episode is brought to you by Helium 10. Helium 10 is an all-in-one software suite designed to help entrepreneurs launch, manage, and scale profitable e-commerce businesses on Amazon as well as on Walmart.com. So whether you're an entrepreneur who wants to start a business on your own terms or you want to scale your existing e-commerce operations, Helium 10 can help. They process more than 2 billion data points daily. That's a lot of data. Have a robust 450 plus million ASIN database and provide at-a-glance analytics like seasonal trends for products, profit estimates, and more. ASIN, just so you know, that's kind of Amazon SKU code of sorts, somewhat like an ISBN. So they can really provide, it's Helium 10, intelligence across many, many different products and product categories, so you can make the best decisions possible. They also have educational resources, award-winning training courses, free webinars, podcasts, and community support. I did a bunch of vetting on these guys with help from all of you, actually, looking for recommendations, how much you would recommend them, and I've been very impressed with the feedback I've seen on social media from their community of 1 million plus users. So they cleared the hurdle, and here they are. If you are an aspiring entrepreneur, Helium 10 will teach you how to build a thriving e-commerce business from A to Z. You'll be able to tap into Amazon's existing customer base, product demand, and shipping infrastructure to launch your business. And just as a reminder, Amazon will handle all shipping and returns for you. And if you want to take your business to the next level, Helium 10's community of experts, cutting-edge strategies, and advanced trainings led by multi-million-dollar sellers, as well as their tools, will help you scale, save time, and improve your customers' experiences, plus manage your financial health, ad spend, and much more. Join more than 1 million Helium 10 users worldwide by signing up for a free account at helium10.com/Tim. That is helium10.com/Tim. Sign up for free at helium10.com/Tim.